What's up, YouTube? My name's Philip. This is my workbench, and if you stick around, I'm going to show you exactly how I made it, give you a parts list and a takeoff essentially of all the lumber and materials and costs. So stick around, and if you do like the content you're seeing here, please do me a favor and give me a subscribe and smash that like button. Thanks. This is what I'm working with currently right now, and don't mind the mess. I'm gonna have to clear this all out to get to stuff, but right now I got this work table. It's adequate. It's all right. It's on casters. It's about 24 inches deep. I can roll it around. Has a shelf down here, which is completely full of clamps and other stuff that I need access to. So here's my constraints. I'm in a small area. I need to have a nice, small, confined work table that can house my table saw, my chop saw, and then other tools that I want to get. I want to get a planer at some point. That's like a big thing on my list. I need a dust collection system, and I want to have it kind of mobile. My other constraint is because I do work, and it's not always out of the garage, I need to be able to grab this stuff and go, load it up into my truck and leave. This is kind of what I've come up with so far. This is just a quick sketch, quick design sketch that I came up with. So I'm gonna want it to be, you know, full length, 97, 96 inches, 28 inches deep, so that I can allow the table saw is deeper than the miter, to sit over here. This will be the drop down section for my chop saw, so that when I'm working with wood pieces, that'll all sit flush all the way across. I have another thought of possibly, you know, putting a shelf here, maybe incorporating a planer here. This is kind of my rough sketch. This is what I like to do. I like to come out here, measure a bunch of stuff, take measurements, get comfortable, wrap my head around it, do a quick sketch, and then I'm gonna bring this in to a 3D software, and I'm gonna model it up. So after playing around in Fusion, this is what I've come up with. This will be the workbench. This is the front side. Got room for the chop saw. Table saw will sit here. I have room for additional add-ons. I could fit a planer down here, but it might make more sense to have a planer over here. But that's something I can decide in the future. And then I'll have plenty of room down here to do maybe some different iterations of storage and a dust collection system in the future. We got these two extensions that are kind of just hovering there. Got some fold down metal brackets that I bought off of Amazon, which I will attach the link in the video. But these are going to support these 24-inch extensions. So this will be an outfeed table and additional workspace area on this side. Table saw sits here. I can outfeed off of this. And then I have another 24 inches over on this side. Again, this is where the chop saw is sitting, so this will add extra workspace as well as for longer pieces that I'm cutting. Just have somewhere to rest on while I'm cutting them. Kind of got it all framed out down below. And what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna start doing a lumber takeoff for this. And the next step is we're gonna go to the lumber store. Let's hit that next. So here I'm cutting down the 4x8 sheets to fit into the 4Runner. 4Runner can't fit that full, so I actually accounted for removing about 8 inches off each sheet and still leaving myself enough room to use the rest of the sheets for the workbench. just got back from the lumber yard. I went back onto my 3D model and I built out a cut list for myself. Right now, I am getting set up over here to, I'm going to attach the legs. We're going to go double on the 2x4s for the legs in all 4 corners. And then what I'm going to use in between, so I got to move my headphones out of the way. What I'm using in between is Tide Bond 3. I wish I had 2, honestly. This is better for like doing bigger glue ups. It gives you longer assembly time. The 3 does. The 2 is a little bit quicker, but in this case, I don't think it really matters. I'm going to be just using some construction screws. Excuse me. These are 3-inch. I'm hoping I don't poke through on the other side. I'm going to be doing pocket holes. So we'll bust this bad boy out here in a minute and get that assembled. But right now I want to just do the legs, and then I can kind of get more of the assembly going together and actually get something looking remotely like a workbench and not just a pile of lumber sitting in my garage. So for assembling all of this stuff, I'm using the pocket hole jig and pocket hole screws, along with wood glue on all of my joints to just make it as strong as I possibly can. Another awesome thing to do when building anything really is to mark things out before you start assembling. It'll help keep things square and evenly spaced as you're assembling, and makes the thought process during assembly a lot smoother and a lot faster. So that's what I'm doing here, just to save some time and keep things kind of cohesive. Now that I've completed the majority of the framing for the base, I'm going to start working on the right side with these other 2 legs. As you can see, these 2 legs are shorter, and that's because the table saw platform is what's going to be resting on this. You'll notice that the back side has one that is longer, which will match the other 2, and it'll make a little more sense further in the video, but it is marked on the cut list below, just so you guys know. Back with another day, working on the bench. This is how we left it the other day, and I'm gonna finish this decking off, and then I hope to get the rest of the framing on it. One thing I wanted to start with before I deck that with the 2nd story shelf is I want to put the casters on. I think that'd be really nice, be able to move it around a little bit more. So what I ended up getting is some Holkey leveling casters. These are available on Amazon, and I'm going to put the link in the description below. But that's that. And when I was doing my research on everyone else's workbench builds, I saw a lot of people using these. This is the version 2. What the nice thing I thought about this is, rather than having something that you spin here to drop your leveling foot or stop pad, this has like a ratcheting mechanism, which is pretty cool. And it just kind of allows for easy, a little bit faster maneuverability. So I'm gonna use these. I'm gonna get these mounted on the bottom. Then we're gonna put the deck on, cut the notches out for the legs, and then after that we can frame the upper section. So let's get these on first. So this is the biggest model I could find. It's also the highest weight rating. I think each one of these is 500 kilograms. So I don't know what that is, but these are the biggest ones, and they're not gonna work. The plate is too big. That is what it looks like. They're barely there. And then this one misses entirely. So I'm gonna have to order the other small ones, which is gonna be kind of a bummer, but I'm gonna keep going on this. I'll just tilt it over and throw the casters on when I'm ready. So here I'm just notching out the corners for the doubled up 2x4 legs, and I'm gonna cut those out with a circle saw first and finish it up with a multi-tool. Next step that I want to do is I'm building, using my 2x6s here, I'm building this top rail section. So this is where my drop-in is going to be for the miter saw. So I'm going to make this cut on these two 2x6s. This section right here. Be super careful doing this, especially when you're going backwards on it. It will grab like I just did, and it is super dangerous. So be careful. Don't stand behind the board, stand to the side of the board. Get a hand on the back so you can control it, and go super slow and just feed it back just ever so slightly. I ended up losing a little bit of footage here, but what I ended up doing was adding the vertical leg to the top support, which I just cut out. And then I attached that to the legs on the far left side. And then I ran pocket holes through the vertical legs into the top of the plywood sheathing below. Next thing I'm doing right now is adding some pocket holes to the 2x6s, which are going to be used for cross members to square up that top area. You can see me adding the 2x4 on the far side, and then the ones that'll be surrounding the miter saw drop in will be 2x6s, as well as the one that is next to the table saw will also be a 2x6 board. On this side, I was really struggling to get in between these two studs. I didn't want any of the pocket holes exposed on this side because this is where the miter saw is going to sit. My drill just wasn't going to make it, and at that angle with this piece in, I was about to take this piece off, but then I'd have the same issue where I can't get to these screws again. These little right hand adapters, I don't know what you want to call it, but they're awesome. So if you don't have one, you should buy one. This made this angle getting in here and getting that screw tightened fully way easier. So highly recommend these. I have another issue right now, and that is that this is the original caster that I bought. It's pretty sweet. It's the larger version, and I think it's rated at 300 pounds per caster. Gives me 1,200 for all four for this workbench, which is more than enough. The other nice thing I like about this is that this wheel's roughly about 2.5 inches outside diameter. My garage, which is my current new shop, is not by any means close to level or smooth or anything. There's cracks everywhere. My expansion joints are really big. My concern is that even these might not be big enough to roll over that at times, and I might need to like kind of give it a running start or get to one side and kind of give it a lift while pulling it over. I ordered these guys and they just came. These are rated at like 250, I believe, per, so just a little less heavy duty. Nice thing about this is that the mounting plate is 2 7/8 by 2 7/8, which the screw holes are even closer in on that. The wheel though is maybe 2 inches outside diameter. And the other thing that I don't love about this thing is that being that it's a smaller size, the leveling properties of this foot as it comes out, I think it only has about 1/4 to 1/2 inch. Call about 1/2 inch, where this thing has a lot more. I have a new plan. I'm not going to use these. I'm concerned that the wheel size is not going to be cohesive for this environment. And I just want this thing to be built to last and strong and robust and easy to move around. So I'm going to stick with these guys. What I'm going to have to do is work backwards though a little bit. The nice thing about this for you guys that are watching it is that you'll learn from my mistakes. Here's what I'm thinking. This is just not going to work. I don't love how close it is. It's right on the seam here. It's barely in this 2x4. And again, really close to the seam, and it just doesn't have like enough to bite. So what I'm thinking is I'm gonna use something very similar to this. I'm thinking a 5.5 by 5.5 square, which is really close to this. And I'm gonna cut this out. So I'm gonna cut out 1.5 inch back, cut this out, cut that there, cut these guys here, and recess this in there on all 4 corners so that I have a nice mounting plate that I can kind of center and attach to this. So this obviously wasn't planned, but it was definitely challenging. You're gonna have to get kind of creative if you go this route. Otherwise, I would highly suggest cutting your material to accommodate these. Maybe even running the 2x6 lengthwise, not just a little square here, but running the whole thing from top to bottom. Might be a better option for you, but I did have to get creative with how I was holding the circle saw, and I had to use the reciprocating sawzall to clean up because the saw blade wasn't big enough to get through all of these at one go. So I attached the blocks using liquid nails and the tight bond wood glue, kind of a combination of both. I wanted to make sure it was fully attached. I used 2 or 3 just temporary screws to hold them in place before I installed the casters onto them, which really sunk them in. All right, we got wheels attached. Check it out. I ended up using some pretty aggressive screws. These structural screws are 1 1/4, and they went on the inside of the bench just because I only had this 2x6 material here. There's a gap here. And then to really drive it home, I put these 3-inch structural screws with a spider drive in there. And this thing sucked it so hard in. This thing's stout. I feel super confident that these aren't going to go anywhere. All right, ladies and gents, I gotta say, I'm super happy. I know this is technically a lot more work, but these casters are awesome. So far, I really like them. They roll super well, very stable. Like, here's these expansion joints that I'm dealing with and cracks in the garage door, but it's no issue at all. I'm gonna keep rocking and rolling though. I gotta finish out the framing. I'm gonna add 1 more stud here, and then I'm gonna finish out the platform for the table saw here. Framing is all finished. I finished up the last couple of pieces here this morning, as you saw. I'm gonna put the platform on here. My next step, I have this piece that'll go right here, but I want to hold off on that, get this platform set or the ply set here, install the table saw and see how this is all gonna fit, because I'm gonna have to cut channels, probably one here and roughly about one here-ish, that'll run so that the tracks, these guys right here, will allow for my fence to move back and forth. So that is my next goal here, because then after I do that and get that functioning, I can deck the rest of this or put the plywood on the rest of this and get it all set up. So I think everything else should go pretty quickly. And fingers crossed, I have a nice, beautiful workbench by the end of the day. So let's get going. Sweet. So we got it on. It looks great so far. It's not exactly right where I want it, but look at that. I mean, without it even being screwed down, it's right there. So that's exactly what I was hoping for. So maybe something like that. And again, this is going to want to slide back and forth. So I'm going to have to cut some of my framing to open up a channel. Somewhere around here, around there. I'll get that all laid out. All right, we're actually going to wheel this outside. We're going to test the rollability of this thing. You're going to come for a ride because it's way nicer in the sun and it's going to be more pleasant to work in. Oh yeah, those casters are great. This is the other crack I was talking about. That's like about an inch thick and it slopes down or drops in. So those casters can handle that. They're good for anything. This was definitely trial and error, trying to figure out the best way to cut these channels. I think now looking back at the footage and remembering how it was, I probably would have started with the circle saw again, multi-tool, and then maybe cleaned it up with the router bit after the fact. The other thing you can see I'm doing here is those pocket holes that I had installed earlier were interfering with my channels. So I did have to pull those out. I was able to use one of them and then I had to relocate another one. Alright, so that didn't work out as well as I had hoped it to. These aren't the best looking. I had some blowout on this side. That other side I ran with the table saw, or the circle saw, excuse me. Some blowout here, as you can see. But the cool thing is that's nice and flush. Once I secure that down, that'll be nice and flush. And that just terminates in there, which is pretty slick. I ended up taking out those extra holds for the fence, but that's really just for storage. So but I think it looks pretty cool. And again, that's 0. I have plenty of room right there, depth if I ever needed to adjust it or anything like that, but it works pretty nicely. With this platform here, I didn't glue anything, and I'm not going to glue any of these sheets down. The reason being is that this is like maybe a 30-second high off of my table saw flat surface. It might go down once I screw it in. The possibility though that it might just still be a hair high is high. I saw this on another channel of someone else building like a really exceptionally beautiful work table as well, and I took a couple of his techniques. He liked using playing cards, so, and he's using these as shims, which I thought was super cool. But like literally maybe 1 or 2 here would get that to be like an absolute perfect smooth surface. So I'm gonna have to shim this bottom up just a hair, maybe just on this side, to get that to be flat. Maybe I'll do it on both so that it's nice and even on both sides, but I'm gonna do that. The other thing I want to do is I'm gonna be cutting down this 2x4 at probably or ripping it down by 1.25 inches, and I'm gonna be installing it here into the plywood, and this one here and one here, and that'll kind of key in the table saw. So welcome back to Phil's Uh-Ohs. So I'm gonna bring you guys in a little bit closer so I can explain this. I did something wrong. I might have entered a number wrong in the model when I was 3D modeling it. Miter saw has the base to the top of the actual work surface is 3 7/8 exactly. And I'm pulling right now with my 3/4 on top, right about 4 inches. On all 4 sides, I already measured them. This I still need to cut down. It's just a little tight still. Don't really. But I have essentially 1/8 of an inch that I need to come up from this surface right here. And I'm trying to figure out what's the best method. I'm thinking about maybe running a dado at 1.5 inches wide and leave me just about that 1/8 of an inch, which would probably leave me right about here at 1.5 inches all the way down on both sides. So then this will key in and set here. I only have 1/8 of an inch resting on this, but I think it's better than nothing. And what I'm gonna do is add some extra bracing 2x4 supports underneath the base, and hopefully that'll give me what I need. Yeah, I messed up. I make mistakes every once in a while, or a lot actually. But that's how I'm gonna resolve the issue. Data blade set up right in there. I got this fence pretty much right on it. And then these are 1 9/16 wide. And then I'm leaving 1/8 of an inch right there, which is just the amount that I want resting on those. Same with this, resting on this. 1 9/16 wide right here. So it won't interfere hopefully with this, and then I'm going to put some blocking underneath, but I want this to sit nice and flat first. So, I'm going to rip this through a couple times, call it good. really happy actually with how that came out. That looks nice. It's a really tight fit. Probably put some screws down in there. And then, now I'm rethinking this a little bit, but I think underneath, I'm gonna put a 2x4 here, and another 2x4 here, possibly one in the middle, and then screw down into them. And then again, if this platform needs to be more level to these planes, and I need to level it all out, I can, using shims and undoing the screws. So this is where I left off. I thought about it last night. This won't go to 60 degrees, but it'll hit 45 on both sides really nicely. And the depth right now is pretty awesome. Like, it's kind of right where I want it, where when it's at zeroed out, the back of the machine is right at the back of the table. So it's pretty perfect. If I do need that 60 degree, again, guys, you got to remember, I'm making this like semi-modular, if you will. So like, I'm going to be taking these things off of this workbench. So if I need 60 for some reason, I'm going to pull the miter saw forward and be able to bevel it to 60 degrees. My next thing that I want to do today, or right now, starting with, is I'm using my level. I'm going to go and level out my surfaces so that everything's going to be nice and flush all the way across. So, I have to raise the table saw just a hair. I'm going to shim this platform with these cards. Already kind of cut out the measurement. So that'll get that, just that slight little gap right there. Nice, good. It's really tight right there. All the way across, looks great. Nice and tight, nice and flat. And then come over here, and I start to have a little high point on this plywood. So I might take out a shim there, and then it's really hard to see. But there's like, this is 2 playing cards. I might be like a 32nd. I don't even know how thick these things are, but that's what I'm working with. Like, I can feel it catching. Catching, and then over here, and I noticed this is a high point, so it's lifting the rest of the level. So I was thinking, what better way to motivate something to go down than a couple smashes with a mallet. So I was hitting it, tested it, it was going down, so I smashed it like just a couple more hits, nothing crazy, and I just split this 2x4. So I'm gonna have to change that now, but I'm gonna leave this for right now. I'm now gonna work on leveling out the platform for the table saw, try and get that nice and level. Then I'm gonna remove these. I can pull this, replace this 2x4 real quick. Then I'm gonna router and sand. That's a little hole. Literally perfect the entire way. Took a couple more cards to angle this the right way for the feet to be affected, but now I'm super happy. Back with another day. Beautiful outside. Last night I finished up with 3 coats of a Minwax water-based polyurethane, and I'm gonna give it a light sand with 220 on all the upper surfaces and lower deck, and I'm gonna router, sand, and give coats on these as well. And these are my expanding shelves. So the last thing I want to do to you guys is bore you to death while you watch me sand and finish this thing a number of times. But what I want to do is give you a quick overview of what I did. I ended up doing 4 coats of that polyurethane with a light sand of 220 in between each coat. This is just to make it as smooth and nice as possible for longevity of the workbench for a whole. The thing I do want to jump to next, though, is I want to just fast forward through all this and jump to hanging the expandable shelves, one on the miter side and one for the outfeed table for the table saw. In between coats, I'm going to be doing this install. These are 23 1/4 fold down brackets, but that is, I'm going to install it right there and then come in here and you can drop it like that, and they're about 1 inch thick. Side, my cut piece, which is 53 1/2 inches long, I'm gonna install this 2x4 bracing where I want my arm to be, and I'm just gonna probably pull it back to about 50 so that it's centered on 50 inches in here. So I'm gonna install this, get this installed, install my 2 brackets here and at the end. I'm just moving this back for a little more clamping surface if I want to use this as a clamping area or something like that, and just not have it be as out to the edge as possible. So I just wanted to give myself a little clearance. So I've now been using this workbench for a little over 2 weeks, maybe a little bit more, and I'm gonna just tell you guys, I love it. I'm super pleased with everything. The fold-out tables are awesome. The outfeed table for the table saw is a game changer. Just helps immensely. I've been working on a project that you'll see a little glimpse of here, where I've been ripping a ton of 3/4 inch 4x8 sheets down. I'm building a bunch of cabinetry, and I'm gonna be putting a video out of that. But yeah, it's awesome. Stay tuned, because there's gonna be a part 2 of this project where I'm gonna be adding some new features and hopefully making it a little bit nicer. So stay tuned. I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart that I really appreciate you guys who stuck in there and watched the whole video. If you want to leave me a comment, I'd love to hear from you, and I'll definitely reply back. And if you like what you see, leave me a like, and I hope you subscribe.